Chris Petri here. Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for coming by. I'm really excited that you're here. We're actually going to create another gorgeous painting today. We're actually going to do a beautiful cottage in the Cape Cod region of Massachusetts in the United States. Beautiful cottages along the ocean. All we did here is we really covered how we're going to do everything step by step. We work from the photograph of this scene. So we will show you how we start out with our photograph here. We create a drawing, so we're going to have a beautiful pencil drawing that we create from this photograph that we have online with our phone. We keep our phone in the picture here so you can see that as we draw. Then once we get that done, we use this preliminary sketch of some painting swatches that we did just recently. So you'll see the beautiful sky and grass colors and the beautiful colors of this small shack that we have painted here. We're going to use these same color schemes in this painting. So we already have everything here we need. We can look at this and use this as our guide. So you're going to see how we put all of these elements together in this painting to make it a beautiful, exciting, coastal type seascape scene. And we'll have a lot of fun. You'll see every detail as we go. I won't skip any steps. Everything will be here so that you can follow along, take notes, however you want to do it. You can take your time, and we'll cover everything. So we'll see you in just a second. Thanks for watching, and we'll be right back, and we'll get started. Okay, so we just saw the finished painting, and now we're getting started. Welcome everybody again. I always like to start my tutorials out with the finished painting. Most of you know that have been following me for quite a while, and so I just wanted everyone to kind of see that finished work of art that we did. And now we're going to start off with just thinking about what we're going to do here. So this is again a Cape Cod house along the beach, and we of course took this photograph and we enhanced it. As artists, you're an artist, sometimes you're gonna adjust your material that you're working from, whether it's photographs or if you're in a real life situation where you're sitting in front of a scene and you're drawing it and painting it, you're going to want to change things around sometime. And that's what we're going to do here. We're going to take this photograph and just change it around a little bit to make it a little more pleasant and positive and enjoyable for ourselves as we paint this scene. And so that's what we're going to do. So we have our photograph. We found this online. It looks really good. We're going to set it up over here. Then we're going to remember that we can take our I'm going to use just a scrap piece of watercolor paper I found. And there's a little bit of some practice color swatches on here. Let's trim that off just so we don't get distracted. And we'll start out like this, and we'll just kind of say to ourselves, when we're going to draw this scene, what are we seeing? Basically, you're going to notice with this architecture on this gorgeous, beautiful shore house that it's mostly rectangles and squares. So you're going to have an easier time drawing this scene if you just realize, wow, it's mostly all squares and rectangles with a few variations on that theme. But if we look at it, we have like a large rectangle here. That's the main portion here, right in the front of the house, right? And then from there, there's the entryway, and then you have the door in here. So these are all rectangles here. And then these are like, a column. That's an elongated rectangle. And there's some trim here on the house. That's an elongated rectangle there. And some more trim there. So we're seeing a lot of vertical lines, rectangles. This is sort of like a square here. That's the window. And there's some trim across here. So you can kind of see where really all these shapes are really like squares and rectangles. And then we just do some light. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you look at the grills in the window, you'll notice there's 3 and 3, and it's divided in half. And then up here, it's sort of like there's a balcony up here. and it steps back like this. So there's a balcony up here, and then we just have a triangle up here. Triangle, and then we come across here, and another rectangle. So you can kind of see we're using rectangles and squares like 95% of the time. Only one interruption in that square and rectangle type shape that we're seeing over and over again in this architecture. And then we have the I might have needed to make this a little higher, this triangle, and then we can get our French doors up here like so, and that's more rectangles, and then rectangles for the windows. And we'll take our time when we're drawing this architecture, when we do the finish, the actual, but I'm just doing a sketch first, just so and this is good to do if you can do a sketch first, like a practice run of the architecture and the drawing. This is really good because then you kind of get yourself familiar with it and you say, okay, you start hashing out, what is this actually? Let me take a closer look at this and take my time. And you can kind of see, again, it's all rectangles and squares, again, except for this triangle right there. And then even the railings here on the balcony are just, basically elongated rectangles all the way across. We're not going to fuss with that too much, you'll see in our painting. And then here we have the roof line up here is like so. And I'm going to change it a little bit. I don't want to make it exactly. We'll make it a little easier. And there we go. And then we have our chimney, and that's a nice beautiful red brick. So we're going to have a nice red brick chimney. The colors in this painting are a little bit muted and grayish, which is really nice. So it kind of feels like an overcast day with some clouds. Maybe it's a good day to be in the house reading some books and doing some painting, some watercolor painting. And we'll go to the beach tomorrow when it's sunny out. And then here we're going to see how the house here, the beach house here, it goes back a little bit, and then there's another section back here, which is, there's some bushes over here by the chimney, and then over here back this way. So now we're stepping back this way quite a bit back, and that's the other back section of the house. And there might be some garages over there or whatever. It looks like there's another door over back there, so we can put that in. And there's another window over here, and another second floor there, and then another roof over here. So you can kind of hash in your roofs like that. So this is all about doing like a little preliminary drawing first before you do your final drawing on your watercolor paper, so that you kind of get used to everything, and you go slow, you take your time, you kind of look at things and, okay, well, there's a window here, it's a double window like that, and then there's some shutters on it. You can make the shutters darker. And then there's a window over here. This is like a box window, kind of sticks out from the house a little bit, but that doesn't have to be too much detail there. You can, and I think that's fine. And then we're going to have like the grass over here, like so, and then we're going to put a little bit of beach area, and then some ocean. So this is where we kind of took some artist liberty. You can kind of see there's a lot of greens and trees and shrubs and bushes along the side of the house here, this beautiful cottage. We're going to take some liberties, and we're going to make some bushes over here too. But we're going to create an ocean in the distance here beyond this house on both sides. And we'll kind of just, we'll make that ocean a little darker at the top like that. So we remember that's the ocean, the deep, deep ocean over here. and then some ocean water here, and then maybe a little bit of beach sand. And then what we have now is a real exciting kind of feel like this house is right on the beach, right on the ocean. So I hope you can kind of see how I'm doing this. I'm trying to simplify things, and a little bit of couple steps here by the front door. And then there's maybe a little sidewalk there, and there's some stones, maybe some blue stones, and maybe a little table. We'll put a little table here. A little table and a couple of chairs. Okay, so just a couple little indications of two chairs and a table, and in front of the house here, and we have pretty much our house, our beautiful cottage here in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, along the ocean. The ocean is right behind the house here, so we really get a beautiful feel of the ocean. We want to get some trees in here, so let's make some trees just on the other side of the house over here on the back of the house, like that. So that's always nice to have some trees around the house, and maybe this one over here is like this. So we'll put a couple trees here and there, maybe one up here too. And that is perfect. There's some grass here. Okay, so that's basically it. 10 minutes, we've just created our preliminary sketch of our house. You can make it more simple, and I think that's what we're going to do. Right now, when I did this, I got a lot of the details in there. As you can see, I really kind of got quite a bit of detail from this photograph. So now I'm going to use this and this together. I'm going to set this across from me. I'm going to set this over here so that we can see it like that. And we're going to draw this, but you'll see when I draw this now, I'm going to make it less detailed, just because we're going to have a fun time drawing and painting this, and we're not going to spend too much time like we just did on that preliminary sketch. That preliminary sketch was just to kind of get our brain used to the shapes and what we're doing here and the details. And now we can go in here and we can work from this, which will sit across from us, just like that. And I'm going to work from this. So I'm going to work from my preliminary sketch I just did. And then once we start painting, we'll use this for our colors. And that should be really fine. So we have both of these things we can use for our advantage. Our preliminary sketch, our preliminary drawing, and this photograph. Between these two, we'll work from this to draw on here, our pencil drawing. And then we'll use this for our colors and our, tonal values, the darks and lights of everything. And once we have that, we're going to be set. We have the two main ingredients that we need to create this painting now. We have the actual photo with all the colors, the dark and lights of everything, the light sky, the red chimney, the beautiful green trees, the beautiful gray color siding, and the dark windows, and just the beautiful architecture of that home. And then from there, we're going to add a little bit of our own artistic liberties and add a little bit of ocean on both sides of this house here, so that we bring the ocean right into this painting. Whereas here, there could be an ocean behind here, but we just don't see it because the person that took the photo, they might not have, well, to be honest with you, if this house, I don't know if it's near the ocean. Probably is somewhat near the ocean, but if it's not, we can create it so that it is. So you can change things around. You're the artist. You have to come up with creative ideas to make your paintings even more exciting than you can imagine. And you want to bring that to the people that you're going to create your paintings for. You want to make sure that you're just make it a really impactful painting and an artwork. Anyone can just say, hey, I'm just going to paint the house just like it is here and paint the bushes and the trees and the house and done. But here we're thinking ahead a little bit and saying, you know what, let's bring some of that ocean feel into this. So we're just going to change our thinking and say, how can we bring that feel of a crashing ocean waves and the feeling of the shore and being along the ocean. That's how we do it. We just eliminate some of these bushes and trees, and then we just show the ocean on both sides of this house, and that's how we would, really attain that kind of really good looking painting where you can kind of see the ocean here. So I hope that's really important that you see that. You sometimes have to change around your subject matter that you're working from. So sometimes you can't find a photo with ocean alongside your cottage here. But if you want to, you can just say, you know what, I'm gonna change this composition and put ocean on both sides of the cottage. Just from experience, I know I can add some ocean on both sides. It's going to look good, and there's no problem with that. You just kind of have to know, like, you're not going to take this ocean, this horizon line of this ocean, and put it way up here on the top by the tops of the roofs. That would look kind of silly. So, if you just know approximately, you'd want to make your ocean height close to like the first floor level. So if you're walking into the scene and you're a person and you're walking into the scene and here's the door of the house and you're walking into the scene like this and you're a person here, your ocean level is going to be about the first floor height, about where your eyesight is. So that's a kind of a key thing you can remember, that you're for this type of scene, if you're going to add in your ocean on both sides of the house, it's going to be about eye level. If you're looking at it from the first floor perspective, if you're walking into the scene on the ground level, your ocean will be about about 6 feet above the ground level. So this is the ground level here, the first floor. Standing on the first floor, we can just imagine someone walking in here like this, like that, and there's their eyesight, their head, and right along there is the ocean. Okay, so that's just a good little thing to remember, again, so that you don't get have an issue with where you're going to put that ocean. You want to put that ocean at eye level in the scene. So if you're walking into the scene and you're at the first floor and you're walking into the door, your head is here and your body's here, your eye level's here, and that's about where you're going to put your ocean. Okay, and you're just going to have, a little bit of ocean, not too much, and then the beach here, and then from there you're going to have your grass and your landscaping from there. Okay, all right, let's get started in just a second here. I'm going to take a quick break, and we'll do the actual pencil drawing on our watercolor paper. And again, we're going to use this drawing as our guide to do our drawing, and we'll use this for our colors and our painting. Okay, so we're all set. We're just going to refer to this sketch one more time. So let's set this across from us on our art table. So however you work, you can set this up just a little bit in front of you, or catty corner to the side, however you like to have your subject matter that you're working from, your different pieces of your subject matter that you're going to put together and kind of weave together for your painting. So I'm going to have my painting here in photograph. So I'm looking at this, and I'm going to just slide this out of the view of the camera just for a second here, and I'm going to put this up here maybe. Maybe I could put it down here. Yeah, that might work better there. Even here is good. So when I look at this, the ocean's about center, so let's use our hash marks. You'll always see me use hash marks on my tape or on the sides of my paper. So we're going to hash mark this tape so that we have some kind of like points to work with. So that's the halfway point here is the ocean, the distant ocean. And if we look at this, we can kind of see that if we made this into maybe quarters, 1, 2, 3, 4. So approximately, if we make this into quarters, so we go halfway, quarter, and a quarter. So 1 quarter, halfway, 1 quarter, approximately. We're going to have our ocean halfway on the picture, like that. Okay, now I'll take my picture like this, and then we're just going to say, okay, so that's the And I'm going to do a preliminary sketch, which means before I do my final drawing, I just want to do a light drawing first, just so I get everything in very lightly first, make sure it looks good, and then we can go over with a darker pencil line if we want. We could also just leave it this way too. But I'm just going to go across. That's the bottom of the house, the cottage. And then about a quarter of the way across is the chimney. So I can kind of just imagine, okay, the chimney is going to be about there. And that's the side of the house. And then this goes up here, and this is like the first floor, like so, which is just a little bit above the ocean. So you have the ocean, the distant ocean horizon line, like this, here. And then the top of the first floor is approximately there. Then from there, we step in a little bit. There's a the second floor steps in a little bit because there is a bit of roof over here, and there's a balcony here. So that's all we're doing, is we're just going to step in and we're going to do our triangle. So remember, we're doing mostly 95% rectangles and squares, and only 5% of the painting is really something other than that. And we can kind of see here, this is just the pyramid, the gable roof. There's a gable roof here. That's basically a pyramid. That's the only really shape that you're going to see that it's not a rectangle or a square. Everything else is rectangles and squares here. So you can kind of take a deep breath and say, wow, it's not as difficult as it really seems, because rectangle here, rectangle here, rectangle here, then you have a triangle, and that's it. So you have a series of rectangles, triangle, and then your roof up here is another triangle, like this. And then up here, you pretty much can say this is a triangle and then a rectangle. So you have a rectangle here, and then a triangle here. So 2, 1, 1, 2, and 3 triangles, and then a square here, and then a rectangle here approximately, rectangle, rectangle, just like that. So you can kind of see that the architecture here is pretty straightforward. Nothing that's really going to throw us off. We just have to get the sizes of everything kind of correct, and that's why I'm doing a really light sketch of it, and that's why I did this first sketch, because I'm working from this right now. I just have it set across from me, but you can kind of see how I'm using this. So over here, I'm going to use this and say, okay, where is this? See, now the house steps back, and then the next area of this beautiful cottage is back a little bit, so it sits back. So now, how far does it sit back? Well, the roof is about a little bit higher than, let's make our chimney. So this is our chimney here. Beautiful red brick chimney. And then there's some bushes over here, like so. And then, where is our top of our roof on the other section of this cottage over here? Well, it's about a little bit higher than or actually it's a little lower than it's about even with the first floor. So and then it's a little bit higher here, like so. So that's another rectangle there. And there's the roof here. That's another rectangle. And there's another rectangle here. And then here there's the there's a shutter there, a shutter here, and then a window. 2 windows. Like that. Then there's another roof here, small roof, underneath those windows. And then there's another window under here. So everything is really a grid. You're just looking at really basically grids everywhere of squares and rectangles throughout this whole composition. And then this here, and then we have more bushes over here. And then again, we said this was the ocean. A little bit of ocean maybe, like that much, about 1/4 of an inch. And then some sand, and then some grass. Okay, and then over here, ocean, the distant horizon line of the ocean. And if you just want to check yourself, no big deal. You want to just make sure you're sort of at the same level. Sometimes we can get a little bit off track. We want to make sure, maybe let's make sure we're okay, good. Yeah, so our ocean, distant ocean horizon line is looking straight. So it's looking good right across the page, even, level. And then on this side, we have, again, some of the sand in the ocean, sand, and then some grass, and then we have bushes over here. And that's good. So you can kind of see we've created with a light sketch. Now we'll go over with a darker sketch just so you can kind of see what I did here. So I'm just going to go right around, contour drawing this. Now I'll just make one little bit of, this is the entranceway where the front door is. So it's a little, it sets back a little bit in here like so. And so we're going to put that door in like this, and then there's a column there. So I just want to make sure I sort of get the architecture good here. And then another step here. So we have a couple steps coming down like that in the front. Some bushes. We have 2 windows. We're going to do those windows in a second. Let's do the windows here. There's a large trim under there, like so. There's a trim on the side of the house. There's a trim here, white trim. And you're going to have fun with this, and if you don't want to do as many details, that's fine. Doesn't have to be that you do every detail I'm doing here. I'm just sort of trying to get the 2 windows here now. Okay, I'm just doing the windows, and I'm saying, okay, where's the grid? It's the same everywhere. Every window is the same. Three verticals like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then a division line in between the 2. So that's the same for all the windows. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Same thing. All the windows are the same. The grills on the windows, they don't change. So all the grills on the windows are the same. The doors up here are a little different. These are a little bit, these are the French doors up top on the balcony. So they have trim around the door like so. And like so, center trim like that. And then there is the there's some window grills that are pretty much like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. This is a little different here. Then let's just make our railings over here like this. And then we're just going to remember to make our railings. Okay, so you can kind of see, not extremely difficult. And I think we have it. The front door has 3, 1, 2, 3. This is a little different than the windows. This is just 1, 2, and 3, like so. So this is just a little bit different, the front door, but it still follows the grid, all rectangles, like that. That's all you need. That's it, really. One more thing. I don't want to forget this part. This is always nice. We have a really awesome stone patio like this. We have to be careful with our lines here. I'm going to go like this, 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay, an oval table and 2 chairs. One, two, 2, 3, 4. So we make some chairs like that. Just indications, this doesn't have to be perfect. If we just have a little indication of some chairs and a table here, that's all you need. It doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that. I think the chairs we can just really simply do in the table. You do an oval for the table with some steel framework like that. Simple enough. Then for the chairs, rectangle, rectangle, a little small line indicating the seat of the chair, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 legs, 1, 2, 3, and then there's one in the back like that. Maybe a little shadow under there. A little shadow. So that's the chairs. Simple as you could draw. You know, a little bit of a rectangle on an angle. The chair, back of the chair is leaning back a little bit, so it's just a rectangle kind of leaning back a little bit. If you were to draw a rectangle square like that, that would not really work so much because you want to have it on a little bit of an angle. So you just take it and make it angled just a little bit like that, and that gives you the back of the chair leaning back, which is the real strong impression of a chair, which always has that little bit of a lean back to it. And that's it. And then the table again is just a slight oval or even a straight line with a couple of legs coming down like in a fashion like this, or you could even do a table just like this and just have square legs like so, or you know, legs that are just plumb straight without any curvature to them. But if you want to make a little more fancy table, you can put those curved legs on the table underneath like that. But that's just a very, very slight little detail in your painting here. The main focus is that beautiful house here in the ocean. So don't worry about these smaller details. You're just going to get them in there later on in the painting when we're finishing up the details. Again, it's always a good thing to just remember the bigger picture of everything. So the main thing we're really concerned is just rendering this house really, really nice, beautiful cottage here in Cape Cod. That's what we're going to want to kind of get correct and really looking good. And then the other details like bushes and the chairs and, you know, some other type of things like that, not so much important. You want to get it okay, but the key is to get this architecture really looking good here. And that's the main point we have. So let's see. This looks good. I think we can paint this now. So we'll get started in just a second. We'll begin painting this. And remember, If you're not so keen with drawing a lot of details, maybe you just get in the basic overall structure of everything, and then you can paint in your details, you know, without having to have all of these small bits of pencil lines and everything. So I'm drawing a lot of pencil lines. I'm kind of showing the architecture and like the grids of the windows and things, but you can adjust that and say, you know what, I'm just going to get the overall picture of the house and the ocean and the grass, and I think that's going to be good enough. So don't worry about doing every single detail. It's up to you. But we're going to do this in the glazing technique again, the glazing method. So you're going to see how fun it is. We're going to get everything done with the glazing technique. We're going to use a real simple approach to watercolor, and we'll begin in just a minute. So we'll start our painting in just a second. Okay, so we have our sketch done, our drawing of this beautiful house. We derived that from two things. First, the photograph, and we did our rough sketch first, like this. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you can see how we did our rough sketch first, using our photograph, like so. We got our rough sketch in of our house that we found online on the internet. Something that we liked, that looked good, looked pleasing, pleasant looking. Then we said we were going to enhance this a little bit by adding some ocean on both sides of the house so that you can kind of see the beautiful ocean in this setting on this painting we're going to do. So we're going to add some things in, take some artist liberty. Remember, artist liberty is very important. You're going to want to sometimes enhance your drawings, enhance your paintings to make them look better, make them look more exciting, and that's how you do it. You just make a decision. You say, well, there's a lot of trees and bushes and plantings and all kinds of things along this house. How can I incorporate in there some ocean? And then we did that. We showed you that we put the ocean around eye level according to the first floor of the house. So we drew a little figure here of a person standing at the front door, and the ocean is at eye level to that person standing at the first floor. And that's how you get your first, you get your ocean, your distant ocean horizon line from the eye level of that person standing at the front door. And that's how we did that. This way we didn't have it too high or too low. Okay, so we set this up in front of us, and we did our sketch from our sketch that we did, our first rough sketch. And that gave us our drawing. Then we said, how are we going to paint this? Well, if we paint this type of scene from this type of painting or photograph, we're going to have a little more of a difficult time. So this is where I saved some small sketches I did, and I'll zoom in. So this was a small sketch I did just recently, where I did some, the glazing technique. So we did the glazing technique on this. Sky washes, dark up top, gets lighter, and then some grass and some fields. Then, after that, we did our second glazing and our second wash and final washes and details with the darker colors here. So first washes, light. Second washes and third washes and glazings are the darks. So we're going to use this as our kind of like guide as to how we're going to paint this. It's easier to do it this way than it would be to try to look at this. I'm going to try to do this here. Let me zip on out like that again. So this is the photograph that we're using for our original. To try to paint from this, you can do that, but if you have something like this already painted and in your folder, maybe you have an art folder and you have different small swatches like this where you kind of hashed out some ideas, this is like, a really good way to do it. you have some of these saved, and you say, okay, I'm going to use these washes, the lights, middle tones with the grass, and then the darker tones here. So we get the darks, the roof colors, the colors of the house, the siding on the house, the shake siding on this beautiful house we have. So let's do that. Let's use this as our guide and our template to paint this painting. So we'll zoom back out again. I'll put my phone over here to the side. I don't think I'm going to really refer to that too much more. I might refer to it a little bit, but this is what I'm going to use to paint this. Okay, so we're going to, maybe I'll fold this in half. And maybe I'll take a piece of tape. We'll tape this, and we'll set this up so you can see it. Actually, let's start there. So we're going to do the sky wash up top first. All right, now the first thing we do, we're getting ready to paint. What's the first thing we do? Let's spritz our paints. We have our Prang Oval 16 paint set. This is a beginner set. You don't have to spend a fortune on paints when you first start watercolors. I always mention that. You can use this Oval 16 Prang set. Absolutely phenomenal set to use. You just spritz it with a little bit of water, and you're ready to start within a few minutes painting. And then when you're done, you just leave it. You don't have to do anything. You can just leave it on your table. You can close it. You can leave it open. Doesn't matter. So this is the most user-friendly paint set you can have. And it incidentally is very inexpensive. It's maybe $5 or $10 for this set. And it lasts a long time too. So I'm going to clean up my palette from the last painting we did. I don't want those colors in this painting. I want to start with fresh new colors. So let me take my paper towels. I have paper towels here. We just go in, clean up our palette, get it looking good, clean, no other colors on there. We're going to start with brand new colors for this painting. You want to do that constantly. Clean your palette between each painting, and even clean your palette. It's best if you clean your palette as you paint. You'll notice we will clean this palette occasionally if we need to while we're doing this painting, so we don't get the colors all muddy and looking, you know, not unpleasant looking. So here's our guide we're going to use. This is our painting. First thing is we're going to do the glazing technique, which means we're just going to start out with the lighter washes, the blue sky and the grass first. Then we'll get into the darks of the house and the windows and the chimneys and things like that, which are the darks here. So you can see these are all the darks of the house itself, and this is all the light washes of the sky and the grasses and things. So the first thing we're going to do is here. We're going to do the first glazing, the first wash, light blue, and some green grasses and bushes, and we'll be fine. So let's try that. Let's leave this down here. I have fresh, clean water, starting out with a fresh, clean bucket of water, crystal clear water. I'm using my, this is a Princeton Art and Brush Company synthetic brush, flat brush. It comes in a 5 or 6 pack for like maybe $5 or $10. Great for beginning if you're just starting out in watercolor, and I thank you if you're just starting out and this is your first video ever coming to my YouTube channel here. Welcome. Thanks so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. And I'm hoping you'll stick with my channel, keep coming back and watching more videos, because I'm going to teach you all the fundamentals and methods in watercolor that are going to get you painting in a really good and consistent fashion that's going to produce results for you. So you will get good results with watercolor if you're just sticking here on my channel. And I always mention, please subscribe down on the right hand side. There's a subscribe button. All that does is basically whenever you open up YouTube, you're going to see my videos, and it'll have a little alert saying, oh, Chris made a new video, check it out, and it'll be at the top of your list of things to watch. So this way you don't lose me. You might forget my name. Next thing you know, you can't find me again. There's millions of people on YouTube. So As long as you're subscribing down here and clicking that subscribe button, you'll have me in your subscriptions portion of your channel, so you'll never lose track of me. You just click on subscriptions and you'll find me there, and you'll always see my videos first in your lineup of videos to watch. So that's all that is. YouTube is a great platform for videos, for art instruction, and that's why I'm here, so I can work along with you and we can all work together and do some great art. And so let's continue. But this is the Princeton Art and Brush Company. They have a set of maybe 5 or 6 brushes similar to this, a round brush, a couple flat brushes for like $5 or $6, maybe $10 at most. So you can start out for $40. You can start out, you have your brushes, you have your paint set, and then you just have to purchase some paper, some art, watercolor art paper, and that's all you need, and you're good to go. You're all set up and ready to paint. So let's get going here. I'm going to wet the paper. So I'm taking my flat brush, fresh clean water, and just putting fresh clean water on the paper so that we have a beautiful wash of light blue sky wash at the top of our painting, and we'll just flow it on down the scene. And you can put that water right on down to the very bottom of the page. Fresh clean water, splash it on. It's going to be a very light wash, so you can paint the whole wash across the whole painting. You don't have to worry. And you put a little extra up top on the sky up here at the very top. You put a little extra water once you kind of get a little bit of water on the page. It doesn't have to be everywhere. You just want to kind of get it on there a little bit here and there, but you want to make sure your top of your paper is good and lots of water up there on top like that. And that's it. Okay, and then you're going to see we're going to do some sky wash. There we go. A little bit of brown mixed with blue, just to give us a little bit of a grayish mixture along with our blues, like that. Okay, and that's it. Here we go. The darkest blues up top in the sky. The darkest blues are at the top of your sky, like this. And you can kind of see I'm trying to get my blues nice and dark up top, like that. Like that. A touch of that grayish mixture, which is a little bit of brown mixed with your blue. And then you just work it down. Now I'm just going to use my clear water. I'm not going to use any more paint. And I'm just going to take this and work it on down. And you can kind of see how that works. I'm just working that blue sky wash down across the paper. And it gets lighter and lighter as it goes until we're basically at the bottom of our page here, painting our bottom of our rectangle, our paper. And it doesn't have to be perfect at all or accurate. You can just get it on there, get that wash. It's much lighter at the bottom, as you can see, darker at the top, and that's what you want. That's all you need, is darker up top here, the sky wash. The sky is dark up top, and then it gets very light as it goes down. You can even add a touch of orange if you want here in the horizon line. You can add a touch of orange just there, right above the ocean. You can kind of see the ocean line there that we drew before. So you're familiar with that line, the ocean, the horizon line of the ocean. You add a little orange to your sky just above the ocean if you want. You don't have to, but that looks usually pretty good. That's in real life. When you look out into the sky, you'll notice that there's usually a little bit of an orange glow along the horizon line. And there you have it. If you have to lift up with a little bit of tissue, if you think you need, maybe if you added too much blue to your roof or something, and you say, oh, I want to keep my roof a little lighter, you can lift up. You can always do that. You can take your tissue, and you can blot up a little bit of wash and paint while it's slowly drying, like that. You can see how we did that. Same thing here if you want. And that's all. I think that's perfect. Now the best part is we're going to relax, and we'll take a break. We'll grab our blow dryer. We'll blow dry this to dry it in a few minutes or so. I'm going to take a quick break for 5 or 10 minutes, relax, sit down on a chair. I'm standing up all the time when I paint on YouTube, so my legs get tired. So I want to make sure I take a quick break, relax my legs a little bit, watch a couple YouTube videos, and then I'll come back. I'll blow dry this, dry it off, and then we'll start our second washes, our second glazings. But this is your first glazing, very light, and you have to let this dry 100%. So you can do two things. Always remember, when you're using the glazing method, which we are using, you just have to remember you have to either let it dry naturally for at least an hour or two until the paper is completely dry, or two, you can use a blow dryer and dry it off with that, and you'll be able to, make that process go a lot faster. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just turn off my sound and dry this off, and you'll see how I use my blow dryer to dry off this this first glazing, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I'm just going to turn off my sound and we'll dry this off. All right, we're continuing on with our painting process. We used our hair dryer and we dried our paper off so that it's completely dry now. That's perfect when you do your first glazing, your first wash. When you're doing the glazing technique, this is what you're looking for. A nice light wash first over the whole painting, and then you let it dry 100%. You can use a hair dryer to dry it off within 5 or 10 minutes, or you can let it dry naturally for a couple hours or so, and then you'll be ready to go for your next wash. So basically, we just discussed how we're going to use our previous composition that we did of a small cabin with some grass and some sky. We used the glazing technique. So this is kind of what we're going to aim for this painting. So we want to kind of say to ourselves, this is something we did just previously, over the last couple of months or whatever. And we had this result where we really thought this came out really good. Light glazing first with the green grasses and the sky washes. And then we came in second, once it dried 100%, we came in and we did the darker darks. We did the middle tones and darker darks as we went along. And we waited till the middle tones or middle tonal values kind of dried, and then we kind of did our darkest darks last as the painting was drying for our second wash, our second and final washes. So we added some dark shadow here by the chimney. We added some darks under here by the eaves of the roof. So you can kind of see how it's just the process when you're using the glazing technique of going light to dark. And then, you start out with your lights first. You get your whole first glazing on. You let it dry 100%. Secondly, you go in and you start doing your middle tones, your roof colors, your siding colors on your cabin or your house or your architecture, whatever you might be doing. And then your final, very, very last bits of darks are going to go in at the very, very last leg of your painting, where you're going to add in some super darks for dark shadows underneath the eaves of the roof, the chimney, under the eaves up here maybe a little bit. You're going to add some darks and you're pretty much good. So this is basically the format you're going to use when you're using the glazing technique. And it just so happens that we're painting a beautiful house in Cape Cod along the ocean. And so it doesn't matter what you're painting, though. That same process always is going to be your standard process for doing glazing technique. Your light washes first, and your middle and darker washes after your first wash is 100% dry. So let's do that. Let's take this and maybe we'll put it up here just so we have it there so we can kind of refer to it. And then let's start our darker washes. And again, I have my brushes here. These are, you can get these for $10. Again, this is an extreme beginners video. So you always know that if you're just starting out in watercolor, and many of you are just starting out, you're not going to want to spend hundreds of dollars on brushes and paints and all that. You want to start out humble, inexpensive art supplies and products. These are great brushes. These are the Princeton Art and Brush Company. If you look that up, you'll find that they have a beautiful watercolor set for like $10, maybe even $5 you can get them for. Maybe a set of 5 different brushes. I only have 3 here, but there's more. There's a couple more in the set. So you get a couple flat brushes, you get a round brush. They're all synthetic, which is great for beginners. You want synthetic brushes. They don't hold as much water, so you're not going to flood out your paper and your palette with too much water. And also, too, I have this old brush from 20 years ago or 15 years ago when I first started painting. It's from the same company, Princeton Art and Brush Company. It's a number 2 square brush or flat brush, and you can kind of see it's a little smaller. We might use these for the windows. So these are great. And then I also have the brush that comes with this set. So this set comes with this brush, which is a fantastic brush. You could paint this whole painting with this one brush that comes with this Prang Oval 16 set. So just to let you know, you can do a whole entire painting with just the brush that comes with this. Just might be a little more challenging to kind of cover a lot of area, but you could do it. It's not that big of a deal. And then, I have my Simpson number 6, Simply Simmons number 6 round brush. And again, this is synthetic too, synthetic hairs. Inexpensive. This is maybe $5 for this brush, or not even $2. They come in sets. So don't ever worry about it. If you're starting watercolors and you don't want to spend a fortune, these simple few sets of brushes, you can use these and you'll be fine. You'll have plenty of good brushes to work with to last you a lifetime. And then all you need to do is get your paper, and that you can find online. There's tons of good paper out there you can find. So let's get started. We're going to use our flat brush again here. 5/8 inch flat brush, again, Princeton Art and Brush Company. Synthetic hair brush. We're going to do our roofing here. Let's do our roof. Brown. Blue. A lighter blue. Brown. A little bit of orange. A little bit of red. A little bit of purple. So I'm going to mix up a lot of different mixtures for our roof color. And even a touch of black. Let's make a little bit of black in there. Like that. Let's try that. Let's start doing our roof colors. Oh, that looks perfect. Look at that. Oh. And that's a triangle. That's all that is. Look at that. We did this just with the simple flat brush. A triangle. Look at that. No sweat. We go back in. Round 2. flat brushes are really great for architecture. You can kind of see how it just lends itself to nice, sharp, pointy lines. And that's all we're doing right here. You can kind of see. And I'm just resting my hand on the paper down below here. So my hand is firmly resting on the paper, and I'm doing my brush strokes, going around as I go. And I just spin things around, but I'm always having my hand resting on the paper down below here on the bottom portion of the paper. And there we have it. A little more. This can be a little lighter because it's in the distance here now. So as you get further into the distance, you remember your colors always get a little cooler, and a little lighter. So that's all you have to remember when you're painting things and you say, oh, well, wow, this part of the house is further away from us. What colors do I use? Well, you just remember you want to go a little cooler, which means more blues, versus the warmer colors, reds and oranges and browns. You want to go cooler, your blues and greens. And that's what we did here. We just went with a little more of the blues and greens. Okay, that's really a simple thing to remember, good thing to write down. If you'd like to take notes, then you're going to write down that simple notation of distant colors in a painting are going to be cooler with blues and greens. Colors that are closer in the painting in the foreground are going to be warmer and darker. Okay, there we go. We have our roofs, both of our roofs completed. Looks good. Now, we're going to again stick to this. This is going to be our guide. Browns and blues and purples for our siding, our shake siding on this house. And now I'm going to lift up a little bit of paint with some tissue. I'm just going to make some light, little bit of light like that. Okay, so let's figure out how's our water looking. Our water looks good. It's not murky and muddy looking, so we can keep our water as it is. I always check my water, so whenever I'm working, I'm always looking at my water and I'm saying, is this muddy looking or murky looking? If it's too murky and muddy, I dump it out and I start with fresh water. It looks pretty good now, right? It's still pretty clear. So I'm not going to worry about that. Okay, now let's go in. We're going to do some more washes on the house, the siding of the house. And this is actually some beautiful shake siding. So the first thing I'm going to do is, at this point, I might go back and kind of look at my original photograph and say, all right, let me look at the siding. You can kind of see here. I'm going to look at the siding and all right, I can see the siding there. It's that shake siding. Wood shake siding, brownish gray. So I just want to remember that and bring that to my painting. So I'm going to leave my phone across from me, just so I have a little bit of a idea of how I'm going to continue on doing this painting. So let's use a grayish brown. So I'm just going to add some brown over here to this grayish color we made. Blue. Blue and brown. Some more cerulean blue there. Some orange. And I think that's pretty good. All right, a little more brown there. Okay, let's start doing the Okay, so now what I do is I rinse off my flat brush, dry off the paint, because I want to dry off the water on a tissue and use your damp brush, and then start working that paint around. Like so. There we go. Okay, so I'm kind of getting in that some of that brownish gray colors. And I'm leaving some of that trim here. You can see I left that white trim along the gable of that roof feature there. And then we're just going to continue working right down here, like so. Let's just take those colors. Okay, now there's a little bit of a darker wash in here. You can kind of see it gets a little darker under here because you have an overhang, and this is like an alcove underneath the doorway here. Okay. Now, since we're going to start working over in the distance, let's work with a smaller brush. Let's use our Prang Oval 16 brush that we have that comes with this set. Let's just get some Okay, we're going to make that a little lighter, a little cooler, maybe a little blue into that. A little bit of blue, just a tiny bit of blue mixture. And it kind of makes it feel like it's set back a little bit. Okay, so there we have it. And again, we're using this as pretty much our guide. We made this this house pretty much the same color and light and dark, so your tonal values and our colors are similar to this. We're using this again as our guide. And we also, again, we reference our photograph that we have. So I'm using my reference too, my photograph. I'm looking at that as well as I work, but I kind of have that off to the side. More or less, I'm going to use this for my my guide as to what I'm going to paint as far as my colors and darks and lights. So we have some chimney here. It's a little more red. Let's add some red over here. Some orange. Okay, so there we have some red and some orange. That's some good brick looking color. And let's do that. Let's see how that looks. I think we need a little more orange, a little more red. Looks a little lighter maybe, so maybe we can go up here, or maybe we can go down this way. We have more. We have more space on our palette down here, clear space that we can use. And you can just see I'm kind of, you can get creative and use different brush strokes. I'm going to maybe use this straight brush stroke like this. Okay, and then over here, a little cooler. You can kind of see how that's a little cooler. I just added blue to our chimney color. I added blue to the chimney color to make this chimney a little cooler looking. It's in the distance back here. So that's how we want to. We don't want to make it the same as this color because this color's closest, or this chimney here is way closer this way than that chimney over here in the distance. So let's make that chimney in the distance a little cooler, more blue. And that should be good. Okay, so we're working in our medium tones, as you can see, tonal values, the mediums. We haven't gotten to the darkest darks now, so you can kind of see how the darkest darks are the shadows under the eaves of the roof, the shadows of the chimney cast upon the roof, cast shadows. Some more darks over here on the shadow side of this scene. So this is the light side where the sun is shining. Over here is the darker shadow side. So you have darker darks over here. So we're going to try to work slowly from these lighter tonal values here to our darkest darks underneath the eaves of the roof again. That shadow, the shadows on the chimney, on the roof. So let's keep working our middle tonal values to our darkest darks. So at this point, let's continue to just maybe think about, let's get some greens. I'm going to empty my water, fresh water. So I'm going to add some fresh, clean water. We've been working a while. Before I add the grass in the foreground here and some of the bushes, I'm going to take a quick break just to relax a bit. We've been working for about 20 minutes or so, almost 20 minutes. That's the perfect time when you've been working for 15, 20 minutes. I always suggest taking a break after 15, 20 minutes of painting or drawing to just relax, sit down. If you sit down when you paint and draw, you might want to stand up, stretch your legs. Or if you're standing up when you're drawing and painting, you might want to sit down, relax a few minutes, watch a YouTube video, grab a drink, some ice water, iced tea, cup of coffee, whatever you like. And then you get back to working again. But if you do take a break, it tends to help. I noticed that. My artwork got a lot better when I started taking breaks versus just trying to hash out things for 2 hours straight. So just my idea. You're the artist. You have to figure out what works for you. You might be able to work 2-3 hours straight and not have a problem. I tend to fatigue after 15-20 minutes. So I'm going to just take a break now, and I'll come right back, and we'll start our grass in the foreground here and some of our ocean colors, the ocean water. And I think at that point we're really going to be in good shape. We'll just have to do some more darks in the windows and some shadowing. But I think after that we're going to be in good shape. So you'll see this painting is really coming together. And I'm glad you're here, glad you're painting with us. And I always mention too, please, if you haven't subscribed to my channel and you've been watching for a while and looking me up on YouTube and you haven't really subscribed, if you subscribe on the right-hand side, that's just going to give you a head start on seeing my videos, because when you open your YouTube channel, you'll see my videos first off when you're opening up your YouTube channel. And then you can follow along and watch my videos and paint along if you want to. But I always encourage everybody to subscribe so you don't lose me, and you continue to work along with us as we go every week. So there's new paintings every week. We do all kinds of great information. We do seascapes, landscapes, cityscapes, figure painting, flowers, still life. We do scenes like this with beautiful architecture, houses, buildings, cityscapes. Again, these gorgeous ocean scenes along the coast. We do all kinds of subject matter, and the great thing is we use the same methods and techniques over and over in watercolor so that you get the real basics of watercolor methods and techniques, so that you can take the information and your watercolors are going to be fantastic. You're going to learn the watercolor medium rapidly and quickly, versus if you don't have the same methods and techniques being covered week after week, month after month, and year after year, you might not be able to really get the main idea of how to paint in watercolor. And that's what my main goal is, that you learn how to paint confidently and successfully in watercolor. And by doing that, you're going to be much more excited and want to paint a lot more and create a lot more beautiful paintings and have fun with it, versus being frustrated and just not being interested in it. I want you to stay interested in watercolor and have it as your favorite hobby to do when you're not busy with other things. Okay, so let's continue on. I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Hey everybody, just a quick informational. I'm really excited. I've been invited to the Thousand Island Arts Center to teach a workshop this summer. It's August 9th, 10th, and 11th, which is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And it's a daytime workshop, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. We're going to have an absolutely fantastic time. I'm going to put up the itinerary in just a second, too, as well. But I wanted you to have the Thousand Island Arts Center phone number so you can call to register. Or you can also register online. That's up to you. Their phone number is 315-686-4123. Again, their phone number is 315-686-4123. Or you can also register and look up all the information online at TIARTSCENTER.org. Again, their website is TIARTSCENTER.org. I'll put the itinerary up here so you can I'll scroll it. I'm not going to read it. I'll just kind of scroll it up so you can kind of see the class description. And you can look this up online too. I encourage everybody to look for the brochure. If you go to the website, you'll see a brochure button. You click on that brochure button, you'll see my course, as well as other courses if you can't happen to make these dates, but you still want to take a watercolor class or watercolor course and workshop. And there's also an online course for watercolor artists. So if you're interested in doing online watercolor courses, they have those as well. That's something this is a great resource, everyone, for your watercolor art. I know some of you mentioned that you wanted to inquire about online art and watercolor painting classes. I'm not doing them right now. I'm really looking forward to maybe in the future doing some online courses, but right now I'm just not geared up for that right now. So they have them though for those that want to do online courses. But just a great resource, and beautiful historic area, beautiful scenery, water and boats everywhere, beautiful architecture, shopping. There's museums. So that's the itinerary. And I hope you'll all make it out to the workshop. And again, we're going to have a great time, tons of fun drawing and painting in watercolor. So I hope to see you there. And let's get back to our watercolor painting. All right, so we're really having a great time. This painting is halfway completed, I would say. We had that first glazing that we did. We're using this as our guide. So I have this color swatch and composition, and I have this right next to my table here as I'm working, and I'm saying now, I'm moving more away from the photograph, which we really used the photograph to get our sketch. So you can see how we did our first rough sketch from the photograph from our phone. We got a picture from the internet and said we like that picture of that house. It looks great. The cottage here. We're doing a cottage in Cape Cod. So we have the cottage. We have that picture. It looks great. We got that rough sketch going. Then we got our drawing. We used our sketch. And we transferred this sketch basically onto this paper, our larger paper that we're painting on right now, our finished painting. And then from here, once we start painting, we need more of a guide like this to kind of see how we want to have our grass in our house and our roof and our chimneys and our sky. We want that to look a certain way regarding watercolors, right? Because we're working in watercolors. If you're looking at a photograph, from the internet, or you have a photograph from, somewhere, or if you're even out in the outdoors and you're painting, you sort of want to see in your mind a watercolor painting of what this would look like in watercolor. And that's why I did this. I have this in my studio, which is basically a really nice feeling of like a shack with sky and grass and nice light and sunlight on the roof and the sunlight on the building and some shadows. So this is what I'm aiming for when I'm doing this. So that's why I'm going to use this as my kind of like chart as to how this should look. So I'm just going to leave that up here in the corner, and we'll continue on. So now I'm going to shift to a different brush. Let me use a round brush. I'm going to use my Simply Simmons number 6 round brush. I've got fresh, clean water. And you know what? Let's use this again. Let's use our larger 5/8 inch flat brush for our grass. So I want to use some greens, like that, with a little blue. So our blue, we're going to add to the greens. So you saw how I used the dark green, light green over here. Then I added some blue over here, maybe a little bit of brown to everything just to give it more of a mellow kind of feel. And we're going to add our grasses here with this large flat brush. So okay, that's more of a cooler green. You can kind of see that. It's got more blue in it. And then let's use that cooler green over here too. Okay, and I'm going around the bushes here. So we have some bushes on the side of the house. We'll put those in eventually. Over here too, we have some bushes right here and right here. And over here too, we have some bushes. We're going to make these lighter and more like yellowish green. And that's where I'm going to get to right now. I'm adding yellow to that green down here, that green mix we just mixed. And you can kind of see already that looks really good. That is yellow mixed with that green, and that is what we're looking for, a brighter green, a more warmer green. The more cooler green with the blue in it, that's our distant grass areas. And then here in the front, closest to us, in the foreground, that's our lighter green. Even a little bit of orange in there doesn't hurt. That's all. Just get some of that on there. And this is going to be bluestone patio here, and this is a sidewalk, so we're kind of going to work things as we go, but I think this, you'll see, this looks really good. And I'll just do a little splashing like this. Just to add a little bit of texture. And I'll use my tissue and I'll wipe up down here like that a little bit. So now you can kind of see we got our grasses alongside the house. Here in the front, we're going to do some bluestone and sidewalk here. But before we do that, let's shift our brushes, because now we have a smaller area. We're going to use this area here, or we're going to paint in this area here, which is the ocean and some sand. So this is, you can see, this is kind of a smaller area as well as this, so that's why we're going to use this smaller brush. So always keep that in mind when you're painting. Use the right size brush for your area that you're going to paint. So when we started first off on this painting, we did that first large glazing, we used a large brush. Now that we're using or creating and painting some smaller areas, let's use the smaller brush. Try not to, try to paint something that's small with a large brush, because you'll have a hard time getting that in correctly. So now let's do this. I'm going to do some blue. Like that. And then dark blue and brown and green for our distant ocean color. So I definitely want this dark over here. That looks good. Okay, and then I blend that in with some damp brush. So I take my brush, I dry off my brush a little bit with the tissue, and then I slowly dampen the paper underneath that little line of darker wash we made, which was the dark blue and green. So we have a nice dark sharp edge of the ocean like that, and then we can go in and get our blue, light blue, and do that. And then we leave a little area for the beach. Maybe we have a little bit of sand there. Let's leave that color for sand. We'll put a little bit of orange in there, and there's a little bit of waves there, some little bit of white lines for waves. And I think you'll notice this does look really good. You have that feeling of the ocean right there by the beautiful cottage here. I think that looks fantastic. Okay, so we're going to continue with some bushes. Let's get our greens, brown and green, for a nice olive looking green. So we'll do some olive green, that darker green down here. Same thing over here. We're going to do some olive green here by the chairs. And you can see I'm painting around the chairs and table with my darker colors, my dark green, which is like an olive green that we just mixed up here, which was basically greens with a little bit of brown to give it that warm, beautiful looking olivey color. And that is going to give us that advantage of having some nice shapes going around the chairs, like so. You could even get a little bit of splashing going right here, just a little bit maybe. Then we'll do some Sometimes you'll have to clean up a little bit of the palette, give yourself a little bit of a fresh space to work where you can add some new colors. So let's do that. Let's add some lemony yellow. There we go. And then that's going to be over here. So these are the tops of the bushes where there's some more lemony yellow kind of look. And remember, the light's coming from this way. So if we need to, we can just take our magic marker, just so we know where's the light coming from. Okay. The light's coming from up top going this way, so there's going to be some shadows. I'm going to do some splashing with my lemony yellow color just to give it some more interesting shadowing. Okay, now you can kind of see we have a lot of good strong color now on this painting. We did the first light washes, now we did the medium tones, now we're going to get into the darks. So again, we're going to look at this and say, all right, here's where our darks are going to, the light's coming from the same direction on this sketch, on this composition here, where the light's coming from this side and going this way. So this is going to work for this too. So we can add our shadows similar to this. And even in the photograph, you can see it looks similar. So here in the photograph, you can see the shadows are under the eaves of the roof, under here, under there, under the eaves. So the shadowing is similar. So we have a similar look for shadowing. The sunlight's pretty much the same. Okay, how are we going to finish this? We've got to use our guide here. Okay, we're going to start with, let's use our, this is a number 2, Princeton Art and Brush Company, number 2 flat brush. I'm going to use this for the windows. So I'm going to just mix up some. Okay, now that's what I do for the tops. For the tops of the windows here, these are like the, this is the darkest areas for the windows, the glass of the windows. So it's higher up and it's underneath here. So this is like a darker area here in the shadows. So that's why I'm going to do this a little darker with more black and brown. So I have black and brown and a little blue, a little bit of red, just to get a really good dark with some good mixes of black, blue, red. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we're just going to get those few first square shapes. You can kind of see these are squares. And then down here we're going to do the same thing. We'll just make some smaller. And don't worry if it's not perfect. We're not looking for perfection here. Now what we have to remember too is with glass on windows, it's usually darker here on the undersides, up high on the windows, like that. And then as it goes down further, it'll start to pick up some greens and blues from the sky and things like that. So let's use that. Let's use some greens and blues. So I'm just going to go in and get some of those greens and blues. And I'm just going to try to get some square shapes. Doesn't have to be perfect again. And also, too, remember, we're having fun with this. You don't want to stress over this at all. Doing a painting like this, just have a good time. And you just see I'm doing little... there's some greens, so let's add some greens to that too. So you're seeing some trees and blue sky with green and blue on the windows. And then we just mix it around a little bit. Like that. Okay, so now we have our windows. They might look messy, but I'm telling you, they're going to look good when we're finished with this painting. You're not going to really be critical of your windows not looking perfect, because you don't want them really to look perfect in a sense, because we don't want us to just be looking at this as like how perfect of a rendering is this with straight lines and things like that. We're looking to just get an impression of what we're doing. This is an impressionistic type of painting. So if we can just capture some details and let things just happen, you'll be happier. So that's what we're doing. And that looks good. Now, let's try to get some stonework on the... I'm going to use my larger brush again. And a little bit of... We're going to make it like a grayish blue. I'm going to get a fresh tissue, dry off some of the water, pick up some of that grayish blue, and I'm just going to get some stone-looking colors, some blue and grayish colors like that. Like that. Like that. And then I think we're going to do something. Maybe let's do some brick. This might be some brick type colors here, like some brick paving stones. So we'll change the color here, like that. Just get some brick color in there. Same color we use for the chimneys, like that. And then we'll come in and do some details later, some lines. Okay, looking good. All right, so now the next step is going to be the darkest darks we're going to put in next, and then after the darkest darks, then we're just going to do some final touches to the painting, some final details, and we'll be completed. So you kind of saw how we did everything in steps. Pretty logical. Lightest lights first for that first wash, then the second wash. We did all the medium tonal values, the medium tones around on the house, the siding, the roof, the chimneys. Then we started getting into some more medium to dark tones with the windows and the grass, the ocean, and the bushes. Now pretty much we have a really solid painting. All we have to do is add our darkest darks, like under the eaves of the roof, and maybe some shadows for the chimney, and some maybe a little bit of shadowing for our table and chairs. And that's going to be really it. We'll be really 100% complete. So let's take a quick break. And again, we've been working about 15-20 minutes, and that's a perfect time for a break. And you'll see that as we go now to finish up this painting, it's really just a matter of the darkest darks we're going to mix, which are going to be pretty much straight paint and not much water at all. And we'll get those darkest darks in, and we'll complete this painting, and you're going to really enjoy it. It'll be a fantastic project. You'll love it. You'll try it maybe 2 or 3 times, and then you'll see that it's really just a matter of following the methods and techniques that we show here on my channel all the time, and you'll get this done, and you'll get it done beautifully. So let's come back in 15-20 minutes after this dries, and we'll get started again. All right, so we're really having a great time. This painting is halfway completed, I would say. We had that first glazing that we did. We're using this as our guide. So I have this color swatch and composition, and I have this right next to my table here as I'm working, and I'm saying now I'm moving more away from the photograph, which we really used the photograph to get our sketch. So you can see how we did our first rough sketch from the photograph from our phone. We got a picture from the internet and said we like that picture of that house. It looks great. The cottage here. We're doing a cottage in Cape Cod. So we have the cottage. We have that picture. It looks great. We got that rough sketch going. Then we got our drawing. We used our sketch. And we transferred this sketch basically onto this paper, our larger paper that we're painting on right now, our finished painting. And then from here, once we start painting, we need more of a guide like this to kind of see how we want to have our grass in our house and our roof and our chimneys and our sky. We want that to look a certain way regarding watercolors, right? Because we're working in watercolors. If you're looking at a photograph, from the internet, or you have a photograph from, somewhere, or if you're even out in the outdoors and you're painting, you sort of want to see in your mind a watercolor painting of what this would look like in watercolor, and that's why I did this. I have this in my studio, which is basically a really nice feeling of like a shack with sky and grass and nice light and sunlight on the roof and the sunlight on the building and some shadows. So this is what I'm aiming for when I'm doing this. So that's why I'm going to use this as my kind of like chart as to how this should look. So I'm just going to leave that up here in the corner, and we'll continue on. So now I'm going to shift to a different brush. Let me use a round brush. I'm going to use my Simply Simmons number 6 round brush. I've got fresh, clean water, and you know what? Let's use this again. Let's use our larger 5/8 inch flat brush for our grass. So I want to use some greens, like that, with a little blue. So our blue, we're going to add to the greens. So you saw how I used the dark green, light green over here. Then I added some blue over here, maybe a little bit of brown to everything just to give it more of a mellow kind of feel. And we're going to add our grasses here with this large flat brush. So okay, that's more of a cooler green. You can kind of see that. It's got more blue in it. And then let's use that cooler green over here too. Okay, and I'm going around the bushes here. So we have some bushes on the side of the house. We'll put those in. eventually. Over here too, we have some bushes right here and right here. And over here too, we have some bushes. We're going to make these lighter and more like yellowish green. And that's where I'm going to get to right now. I'm adding yellow to that green down here, that green mix we just mixed. And you can kind of see already that looks really good. That is yellow mixed with that green, and that is what we're looking for, a brighter green, a more warmer green. The more cooler green with the blue in it, that's our distant grass areas. And then here in the front, closest to us, in the foreground, that's our lighter green. Even a little bit of orange in there doesn't hurt. That's all. Just get some of that on there. And this is going to be bluestone patio here, and this is a sidewalk, so we're kind of going to work things as we go, but I think this, you'll see, this looks really good. And I'll just do a little splashing like this. Just to add a little bit of texture. And I'll use my tissue and I'll wipe up down here like that a little bit. So now you can kind of see we got our grasses alongside the house. Here in the front, we're going to do some bluestone and sidewalk here. But before we do that, let's shift our brushes, because now we have a smaller area. We're going to use this area here, or we're going to paint in this area here, which is the ocean and some sand. So this is, you can see this is kind of a smaller area as well as this, so that's why we're going to use this smaller brush. So always keep that in mind when you're painting. Use the right size brush for your area that you're going to paint. So when we started first off on this painting, we did that first large glazing, we used a large brush. Now that we're using or creating and painting some smaller areas, let's use the smaller brush. Try not to, try to paint something that's small with a large brush, because you'll have a hard time getting that in correctly. So now let's do this. I'm going to do some blue. Like that. And then dark blue and brown and green for our distant ocean color. So I definitely want this dark over here. Ah, that looks good. Okay, and then I blend that in with some damp brush. So I take my brush, I dry off my brush a little bit with the tissue, and then I slowly dampen the paper underneath that little line of darker wash we made, which was the dark blue and green. So we have a nice dark, sharp edge of the ocean, like that. And then we can go in and get our blue, light blue, and do that. And then we leave a little area for the beach. Maybe we have a little bit of sand there. Let's leave that color for sand. We'll put a little bit of orange in there. And there's a little bit of waves there, some little bit of white lines for waves. And I think you'll notice this does look really good. You have that feeling of the ocean right there by the beautiful cottage here. I think that looks fantastic. Okay, so we're going to continue with some bushes. Let's get our greens, brown and green, for a nice olive looking green. So we'll do some olive green, that darker green down here. Same thing over here. We're going to do some olive green here by the chairs. And you can see I'm painting around the chairs and table with my darker colors, my dark green, which is like an olive green that we just mixed up here, which was basically greens with a little bit of brown to give it that warm, beautiful looking olivey color. And that is going to give us that advantage of having some nice shapes going around the chairs, like so. You could even get a little bit of splashing going right here, just a little bit, maybe. Then we'll do sometimes you'll have to clean up a little bit of the palette, give yourself a little bit of a fresh space to work where you can add some new colors. So let's do that. Let's add some lemony yellow. There we go. And then that's going to be over here. So these are the tops of the bushes where there's some more lemony yellow kind of look. And remember, the light's coming from this way. So if we need to, we can just take our magic marker, just so we know where's the light coming from. Okay. The light's coming from up top going this way, so there's going to be some shadows. I'm going to do some splashing with my lemony yellow color just to give it some more interesting shadowing. Okay, now you can kind of see we have a lot of good, strong color now on this painting. We did the first light washes, now we did the medium tones, now we're going to get into the darks. So again, we're going to look at this and say, all right, here's where our darks are going to, the light's coming from the same direction on this sketch, on this composition here, where the light's coming from this side and going this way. So this is going to work for this too. So we can add our shadows similar to this. And even in the photograph, you can see it looks similar. So here in the photograph, you can see the shadows are under the eaves of the roof, under here, under there, under the eaves. So the shadowing is similar. So we have a similar look for shadowing. The sunlight's pretty much the same. Okay, how are we going to finish this? We've got to use our guide here. Okay, we're going to start with, let's use our, this is a number 2, Princeton Art and Brush Company, number 2 flat brush. I'm going to use this for the windows. So I'm going to just mix up some Okay, now that's what I do for the tops. For the tops of the windows here, these are like the, this is the darkest areas for the windows, the glass of the windows. So it's higher up and it's underneath here. So this is like a darker area here. in the shadows. So that's why I'm going to do this a little darker with more black and brown. So I have black and brown and a little blue, a little bit of red, just to get a really good dark with some good mixes of black, blue, red. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we're just going to get those few first square shapes. You can kind of see these are squares. And then down here we're going to do the same thing. We'll just make some smaller. And don't worry if it's not perfect. We're not looking for perfection here. Now what we have to remember too is with glass on windows, it's usually darker here on the undersides, up high on the windows, like that. And then as it goes down further, it'll start to pick up some greens and blues from the sky and things like that. So let's use that. Let's use some greens and blues. So I'm just going to go in and get some of those greens and blues. And I'm just going to try to get some square shapes. Doesn't have to be perfect again. And also to remember, we're having fun with this. You don't want to stress over this at all. Doing a painting like this, just have a good time. And you just see I'm doing little there's some greens, so let's add some greens to that too. So you're seeing some trees and blue sky with green and blue on the windows. And then we just mix it around a little bit. Like that. Okay, so now we have our windows. They might look messy, but I'm telling you, they're going to look good when when we're finished with this painting. You're not going to really be critical of your windows not looking perfect, because you don't want them really to look perfect in a sense, because we don't want us to just be looking at this as like how perfect of a rendering is this with straight lines and things like that. We're looking to just get an impression of what we're doing. This is an impressionistic type of painting. So if we can just capture some details and let things just happen, you'll be happier. So that's what we're doing. And that looks good. Now, let's try to get some stonework on the... I'm going to use my larger brush again. And a little bit of... We're going to make it like a grayish blue. I'm going to get a fresh tissue, dry off some of the water, pick up some of that grayish blue, and I'm just going to get some stone-looking colors, some blue and grayish colors like that. Like that. Like that. And then I think we're going to do something. Maybe let's do some brick. This might be some brick type colors here, like some brick paving stones. So we'll change the color here, like that. Just get some brick color in there. Same color we use for the chimneys, like that. And then we'll come in and do some details later, some lines. Okay, looking good. All right, so now the next step is going to be the darkest darks we're going to put in next. And then after the darkest darks, then we're just going to do some final touches to the painting, some final details, and we'll be completed. So you kind of saw how we did everything in steps. Pretty logical. Lightest lights first for that first wash, then the second wash. We did all the medium tonal values, the medium tones around on the house, the siding, the roof, the chimneys. Then we started getting into some more medium to dark tones with the windows and the grass, the ocean, and the bushes. Now pretty much we have a really solid painting. All we have to do is add our darkest darks, like under the eaves of the roof, and maybe some shadows for the chimney, and some maybe a little bit of shadowing for our table and chairs. And that's going to be really it. We'll be really 100% complete. So let's take a quick break. And again, we've been working about 15-20 minutes, and that's a perfect time for a break. And you'll see that as we go now to finish up this painting, it's really just a matter of the darkest darks we're going to mix, which are going to be pretty much straight paint and not much water at all. And we'll get those darkest darks in, and we'll complete this painting, and you're going to really enjoy it. It'll be a fantastic project. You'll love it. You'll try it maybe 2 or 3 times, and then you'll see that it's really just a matter of following the methods and techniques that we show here on my channel all the time, and you'll get this done, and you'll get it done beautifully. So let's come back in 15-20 minutes after this dries, and we'll get started again. Okay, so we're continuing on here. We're getting into our darker darks, the darkest darks of our painting, the shadows, the darks. That will actually create a beautiful look for the whole painting. It'll just bring everything together. So what I'll do is, I noticed I needed to add a little bit more chimney color up here for the bricks of the chimney up here, and maybe a little orange, straight orange. I might need to add a little spritz, so I spritz the paints now. It's been sitting about an hour. I took an hour break, so I just want to make sure I spritz the paints there to get them reactivated. Okay, so that we have that there. A couple more chimney pots there, and a little more I just made that a little bit of an orange, maybe a little bit of red in there too. And maybe if we have to, we can lighten that up a little bit here. It's in the distance, so I'll just lighten that up a bit. With a tissue, you just blot a little bit. All right, so we're going to start doing our shadows, and again, we're using our composition that we had created a couple weeks ago or so. And this was just a small little cabin or small shack with beautiful light and shadow. We noticed that it has the same method and techniques we used here, the glazing technique where we did all the light glazings of the light washes of the sky. Then we went in and we did the middle tones like the roof and the siding and the walls of the building, of the house, the cottage here in beautiful Cape Cod. And then we have, we're going to start working on the darkest darks now. So we're going to work on the dark shadows under the eaves of the roof. The chimney's going to cast a shadow across over here, and we'll have more shadows over here on the eaves of the roof here. So you're going to see how the shadows will also be underneath the table and the chairs here. And that'll pretty much tie everything all together and make everything look unified and fantastic. So let's get started here. We're going to Remember that we're going to use this for our guide. And I think our colors are okay. Since we're doing dark, really dark darks, we don't have to worry about, you know, some of the washes that are on this palette at this point. So I'm going to take some blue, purple, a little bit of that black, a little bit of the brown. And we'll get a really nice dark there, and then we'll start doing our darkest darks. And remember, they're going to lighten up a little bit, your darkest darks. So if we just get those on the eaves of the roof here, and there's another eave here of the roof. And then here we're going to have a shadow across here, like that. This one's going to be a little wider. Like that. So I'm going to add some red to that, to the black and the brown and the red. We'll add some red to that. Keep it a little bit warm. I'm going to add a little bit to this chimney here like this. And there's some shadow there, the chimney there. And then we're going to have a darker dark under here. Okay, some shadow under there. We can add some orange for a little bit of warmth. All right, so we have our shadows here. They're working pretty, they look pretty good. We're going to do a couple here. There's some shadow under the chimney there. Maybe a little bit under here. Those will lighten up a little bit. But you can see how those shadows really, wow, those get exciting, those shadows. They really make the painting look like there's plenty of sunlight and bright light in the painting. This shadow over here along this chimney, I kind of took a guess on that, how it's going to look. Okay, so I did a little bit of a liberty of trying to work out this shadow on my own. I don't know how that's going to look in the final scheme of things, but I think that looks all right. So I think that's the only thing I really sort of guessed at. I don't know. Okay, so we're going to go under here for some more shadow under the trim there. And some more shadow there. And there's some more shadow there and here. And then there's some, you can do a little couple details here and there on the doors, the windows. The windows can be a little, now up here we're going to try to get a couple. These are the spindles on the railings up top. So here we'll put a couple darker lines like that. So we'll put a couple darker lines in front of the white doors here. These are the French doors. And now we'll pick up a tube of titanium white. So I have some titanium white here. I add a little bit of yellow orange to the titanium white just to give it a little bit of a warmer feel to it, because titanium white's pretty much straight white. So, and then we're just going to do some lines like this, and these will be the balusters for the upper railings for the balcony up here. So I just do a couple quick, and then some white across like so. Perfect. Then we can go with a little darker shadow underneath here, underneath this railing. So we could do that. And that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit of more highlight up here. So you can add a touch of highlights here and there. Maybe up here on the top of the chimney. A couple over here, maybe a couple on the top of the chimneys there. Okay, then we're going to go with our last bit of shadows. We have some purple. Let's use some purple here, a little bit of that brown and black and purple. And then we're going to do some chairs and table. And you can kind of see I'm going really quick here. I don't want to be too fussy with this at all. I want to just get this done like that. And then there's some shadows under here. And if we just scribble them on, we're going to look better. Like that. So the more you try fussing with things, a lot of times it gets worse. If you just do a couple little quick shadow type feel, you know, things like that. Just a little couple scribbles on there. Just remembering that the shadow is underneath the chairs and the light's coming from here. You're going to be set. It'll be good. So we did some shadows for the chairs, for the table. Maybe a little bit of shadow for the steps here. Like that. And maybe these shadows are a little bit more. I think that looks better. The shadows are a little bit further down on these posts here, on the trim of the house here. And I think that looks pretty good. I notice maybe we could add some white trim over here. We sort of lost this white trim over here before. When we were painting, we might have. So just maybe a little bit of trim like that. That looks good. I also noticed there might be some trim over here that we needed to. And over here too as well on the fascias, the fascia boards. So we sort of have to keep a track of maybe some of the things that when we were painting, we might have lost a few details when we were painting our original washes. So that's something you can go back in and kind of look at and ask yourself, did I paint over anything that maybe that I could recapture those things. So that looks pretty good. And I'm just trying to get a few more details there. The chimney looks a little better now. I think I got that looking better. Other than that, I think everything looks fine. We might put a couple shadow lines here, like this, like that. And these are some stones. Like that. And then these are some bricks. So we can do some bricks like that. And then if you want to do brick patterns, you just have to remember to have that sort of the brick pattern of and I'll just do a little splashing on that. And then a little bit of, just to kind of loosen it up a little bit of purple. Splash a little purple on that. Just to kind of give it the feel for some brick here. And then maybe we'll do a little bit of orange for sand over here. So we'll put a little bit of orange for that sand feel over here in the beach area. So there's some beach and then there's some ocean. And I think that looks good. I think we're actually, we have a great looking painting here. Everything is looking accurate with a realistic view of everything. The shadows, the sunlight. And if you feel something is too dark, you can always go over it with a little bit of water. So if this shadow seems a little dark, you can go over it with a little bit of water, fresh, clean water, and you lift it up a little bit like that. Sometimes things can look a little bit too dark. That occasionally happens where you paint maybe something a little bit too opaque or too dark. Over here it looks like we did a good job. I'll put a little bit of white here, like that. And that'll tend to mix and mingle with the darks here, like that. We'll put a little bit of more white up here. So I basically just I use a little bit of titanium white just to add a white, bright sunlight here, and it's level with the rest of these here, so you can kind of see that. So this post and this post and this post all have that bright sunlight right here, and then this overhang, this porch overhang here, is a little bit out, sitting out from the building, so you have that larger shadow under there. So I just wanted to make sure that these posts look even with their sunlight across the posts, and then the shadow under there. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is a really fun painting to do. We're going to lift up the tape now. And again, you'll see the finished painting, and again, we use this for our guide as to our colors, our darks and our lights, our dark shadows, our medium tonal values of the shadows and the colors of the siding, and the overall colors of the building, this beautiful house here along the shore. And let's peel off the tape, and we'll kind of see how it looks with a little bit of a border around it. Okay, and this really is a fun painting to do. You take your time with the drawing, of course. Drawing architecture is a little challenging sometimes, but you know, you don't have to make it perfect. If you get it close to what you're trying to capture, it looks good. So don't get overly fussy or anything. Okay, like that. And that's how it looks basically, with a nice clean border, as if we had put a mat over it. So that always looks good with a mat. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you on the next video. I'm really grateful that everyone is coming by in the comments section, leaving great comments, compliments, encouragement, great insightful ideas for other artists to pick up on. So I appreciate everyone that gets active here in the comment section of our YouTube channel. Again, I'm really appreciate everyone coming by and watching and painting along with us, and we'll see you on the next video. And happy painting, everybody. Enjoy the journey. It's a fun journey. You just stick with it, keep working at it a little bit at a time. Slow and steady wins the race in watercolor. Always remember that. You just have to work at it slow and steady, and you'll get there, okay? And just keep watching all the videos that we create here on this channel. You'll see all the fundamentals and techniques over and over and over again, and eventually it'll just stick, and you'll have it memorized on how to work with your brushes, your paints, your lights, your darks, your shadows, your washes. All of those things will become second nature for you, just like if you're riding a bicycle or driving a car or just going about anything that you would do on a daily basis. It just becomes second nature. You don't even have to really think about it. You'll just be doing all the major fundamentals that you need in watercolor to capture beauty in your paintings, and I know everyone will be really happy. So if you're painting good paintings, you're going to be really happy, and that's why I know you all stick with me here after many years, and we'll see you on the next video, okay? Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.